So the first thing I do when I wake up in the morning is have some water with lemon juice. This is just fresh squeezed lemon juice, and then I also add in some apple cider vinegar, which is raw and unfiltered. So I pour in about a tablespoon, and then I mix it, and that's what it looks like. For breakfast this morning, I'm having a chocolate smoothie bowl, and I start with organic canned pumpkin, and then I have some organic baby spinach. And next up, I have a vegan fermented protein powder from Genuine Health. And then I also add in some maca powder, which is really high in antioxidants and really energizing. And then some reishi mushrooms, which are good for immunity and detoxification. And then after the reishi, I add in some chocolate green powder. This is just a superfood green powder, which adds a little bit more extra greens and also has some chocolate flavor. And then after the green powder, I add in some spirulina, which is high in protein, it's an algae, and then is some organic raw cacao powder to add that nice chocolate flavor. To make my smoothie bowl, I start with about a 1/4 cup of pumpkin. I really just eyeball it and just do 2 big spoonfuls of the organic pumpkin. Whoops, I missed the can there. And then after the pumpkin, I add in my greens. So I do as many greens as possible. You can see I'm really jamming them in here. I probably added about 3 cups of spinach into this smoothie bowl, but because there's a lot of chocolate flavor, you can't even really taste it. And then I'm adding in my powders. So here's the protein powder, and then some spirulina, and then after the spirulina, I'll add in that chocolate greens powder. I have my maca powder, which is about a teaspoon, and then the reishi mushroom powder, which is again almost about a teaspoon, maybe a little bit more. And then the raw cacao powder. I was just finishing the bag here. I usually add about 2 tablespoons of raw cacao powder. Then it's time for the frozen fruit. So I'm using organic blackberries, frozen bananas, and organic wild blueberries. I start with the bananas. I pre-chop them, so this is probably about half of a banana. And then I'll add in my blueberries, which is about a 1/4 cup, and then my blackberries. And you can see I didn't open the bag big enough. I'm having some trouble getting them out, but that's okay. So here's my full smoothie: the pumpkin on the bottom, the spinach, the powders, and then my frozen fruit on top. And then it's just time to blend. So I use my Blendtec twister jar for my smoothie bowls, which makes it super thick and creamy, and as you can see, it's almost like ice cream, which I love. So I'll put it in my bowl, and then this is where I get to add all my toppings. So today I chose chia seeds, mulberries, bee pollen, cacao nibs, and pumpkin seeds. And then you can just top it however you like. I did it like this because I was going to take a picture for Instagram, but however you want is fine, and then you can just dig in. It's about 10:15 and I am about to go out to do an errand with Trevi. I have to get her groomed, and I'm gonna have a cup of tea. So I wanted to show you what I am going to drink and also my crazy tea selection. So I told you I have a lot of tea. I mean, look at this. I have almost every single kind. I love mint and ginger and matcha and green. But today I am going to have a cup of ginger tea. It's really great for digestion. I absolutely love it. So I just add in my boiling water like you would any kind of tea, and you're good to go. While I was waiting for Trevi at the groomer, I stopped at the Whole Foods Cafe and ordered a matcha latte with hemp milk. It doesn't come sweetened, so I just decided to add a little bit of organic honey, and you can see I went a little bit crazy, but that's okay. And then just stirred it in, and it was so delicious. I also got a little hungry, so I decided to have some dried persimmon slices along with my matcha latte. And so now I'm going to unload my groceries, and then I'm going to make lunch. So I'm gonna make a salad using some of the stuff that I got off of the Whole Foods hot bar, and I'll show you what it looks like. Check out this spread at Whole Foods. It is seriously so hard to decide what to get. But for lunch today, I decided on a sesame broccoli, some raw beets and carrots, some seaweed salad, and I put it on a bed of arugula. And since I didn't feel like my bowl was enough, I also had a slice of gluten-free toast with hummus and avocado, a gingerade kombucha, and then there's my bowl with some tahini dressing. about 4 o'clock and it's time for my afternoon snack, and luckily I was just testing some juice recipes for KitchenAid. So I have some fresh pressed juice to drink, and let me show you what I ended up making. I ended up making 3 juices, a green one, a carrot one, and a beet one, but I only ended up drinking one of them, and it was the green one. It was so delicious. Just got back from my evening walk with Trevi, and I am going to start on some stuff for dinner. So I'm making roasted Brussels sprouts and crispy chickpeas, and then once those are done, I'm going to make some sweet potato fries. Here's my pan with my washed Brussels sprouts and my drained and rinsed chickpeas, and the first thing that I'm gonna do is just pat the chickpeas dry with a paper towel. This helps get them a little bit crispier in the oven, and it also helps get rid of some of those skins. So once they're dry, you can just pick through and take away the skins that seem to have fallen off. And then you will see that I have my side of my little pile of skins, and then I'm just gonna drizzle this with about a tablespoon, maybe a little bit more of olive oil, and season with salt and pepper. Next up on the agenda is my quinoa, of course. Can't have a bowl without quinoa. So I am making about a cup so that we have some extras. We don't eat a cup in one serving, but this is hard to do with one hand, by the way. I'm pouring in my quinoa, and then I'll add that to my pot along with 2 cups of water, and I'll just bring that to a boil and then let it simmer for like 15 minutes. While my quinoa is cooking, I'm going to prep my sweet potatoes. So I just chop the ends off of a large sweet potato and then chop it in half. And I'm making wedges. So my trick to cutting wedges is actually to flip it up on its end like that, and then I slice kind of like you would a pie from the center, and then you just slice it into wedges. So just repeat this until you've cut your entire sweet potato, and then I'll show you how to season them. Once you've got everything chopped, just add the wedges into a bowl, and you'll drizzle with maybe a tablespoon, a little bit more of oil, season with salt and pepper, and then I put in some fresh thyme, and then you just stir until everything's evenly combined. So this method for roasting I actually saw on another blogger's page. I found it on Pinterest. So you start by putting tinfoil onto the base of your pan, and then you lay on a rack, and then you just arrange the sweet potato wedges on the pan, and you'll roast them in the oven for about 35 minutes at 450 degrees. Next up on my menu is a super simple kale salad. I make this almost every single night, and you just tear a bunch of kale, put it into a large bowl, and then I make a really quick, easy dressing, which is olive oil, lemon juice, mustard, a little bit of salt and pepper, and then you grate in some fresh garlic. This gives it a nice little bite and some great flavor. Next up, you'll just pour the dressing on top of the kale, and then you'll just get in there with your hands. Don't be afraid to get dirty, and you just massage it until the kale starts to break down and gets a little bit soft, and all the dressing is really evenly dispersed. Okay, now it is time to put everything together. So I'm starting with the kale on the bottom, and then after the kale is the quinoa. So Matt probably got about a cup of quinoa in his, and I did maybe half that amount for me. You can tell it's still super hot, which I love. It gives the whole bowl some heat, and I spilled a little bit, but that's okay. And then the Brussels sprouts. So these are just the roasted Brussels sprouts. I probably did about a cup on each, maybe a little bit less. I don't know. I didn't measure. And then it's time for the protein. So for me, that was the crispy chickpeas that we made. I probably had about a half a cup of that. Matt had chicken. And then I love kimchi. It's one of my favorite ingredients. I always add it to my bowls, and Matt does not like kimchi. So I did maybe a half a cup of kimchi. And then, of course, we added avocado. Can't not have a bowl without avocado. So I did a quarter of an avocado for each of us. So I just take the pit out, and then I dice it, so it's kind of like a crosshatch. And then I just scoop it out with a fork or a spoon, and I divided it between our 2 bowls. Oh, and I can't forget the hemp hearts. Love, 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 love adding hemp hearts onto my bowls. So I just sprinkled maybe like a tablespoon or two on each bowl. It just gives it some extra protein and a nice little crunch. Dinner's not complete without our sweet potato wedges. Here they are coming out of the oven. They are nice and hot. Didn't get as crispy as I wanted, but they were still delish. So we've got our bowls. Oops. Yum. So good. And Matt, what do you think of your bowl? You like it?
Yeah.
His has chicken and mine has chickpeas. Love my bowls, but dang, our sweet potatoes good. Dipped in a little organic ketchup and Good night, everybody.